Welcome to Jammin' with Jason Mefford, a show where we discuss topics relevant to chief audit executives and professionals in audit, risk, and compliance. We discuss the technical and soft skills needed to navigate the minefields of organizations. You hear best practices and practical advice for helping you advance your career, and we'll even talk about music, mindfulness, and psychology, because we can. So sit back and relax while you listen to the #1 podcast in the world for internal auditors, unscripted and unedited. Welcome to another episode of Jamming with Jason. Hello, my friends from literally all over the world. I'm glad to be with you this week. Now, I'm sure that some of you might have looked at the title of this and thought, we'll follow the old man. Jason, are you crazy? What are you talking about? Actually, I'm going to get to that in just a minute because it comes from a song that you'll see kind of ties in with what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into that main part of the podcast today, I wanted to go over a few things with you. Now, I monitor and kind of watch, where people around the world are listening to the podcast, and we're actually getting quite a huge reach across the whole world. In fact, there's been people on all 6 continents that are listening to this each week. They don't put Antarctica on there, so I'm not sure if we'll ever have anybody from Antarctica. But maybe at some point when I go and visit there, I'll have to listen to the podcast so I know at least one person listened in Antarctica. But I was wondering, as I'm looking at the map, if you can do me a favor. So what I would love to see is that pretty much the whole world is lit up, because I get kind of a color-coded map that shows where people have been listening. And like I said, the whole world is starting to light up. But there's kind of this gray area in Central Asia. So if you know people in Central Asia, please help them know about the podcast and have them listen. So that part of the world will light up. There's a little gray area in Eastern Europe. So again, if you know people in Eastern Europe, please reach out to them and let them know about the podcast as well. Because you know what? I know there's auditors in these areas. And the last kind of area is kind of Central Africa. There's not much activity there as well. But again, I know that there's auditors out there as well. So if you can do me a favor, make sure and if you're enjoying the podcast, share this with your friends and colleagues. And if you know people, especially in those parts of the world, make sure to reach out to them so we can literally kind of light up the world as we get going. Now, the other thing is, a couple times a year, we open up the Chief Audit Executive Forum for new member applications. And the reason that I'm kind of telling you now is we're getting ready. Within the next few days, we're going to open it up for new member applications. So what that means is, if you are a chief audit executive, now is going to be your time to be able to get in and submit an application for membership. It's an application only process we go through. You have to fill out an application, be interviewed by me to make sure that you're a good fit for the group. And honestly, each time we do this, we turn people away because not everybody is a good fit for this. But if you're a chief audit executive and you want to belong to a community where you can have frank discussions about the challenges and opportunities of being a chief audit executive, and where you want to get practical advice, be able to do some things like increase your executive presence, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and you really just want to be viewed or perceived as a trusted advisor to your organization, the Chief Audit Executive Forum is the best way for you to actually be able to do that, to rub shoulders with, get a sense of community from other like-minded Chief Audit Executives from around the world, kind of see what they're doing, talk about, the challenges that they're experiencing, maybe how they've overcome those, and really just kind of focus on some of these opportunities and other things that are out there for us in the internal audit space. So again, if you're a chief audit executive, like I said, this is going to be opening up very quickly. And so what I've done is actually down in the show notes, I put the link of where you can actually go to be able to find out more information and fill out an application. Now, I'll also tell you, you can find it at meffordassociates.com/CAE forum. So again, that's meffordassociates.com/CAE forum that you'll be able to find it there. And if you forget the exact link, if you go to the Mefford Associates webpage, you'll be able to find it there, as well as there'll be information on my personal website, jasonmefford.com, as well, that's yet to come. So you'll be able to see that in all those different places. Now, let's get into talking about the old man. And this isn't a tongue-in-cheek about me getting old or anything, but it actually comes from, one of the traditions that we have in my family is during the holiday time, we watch certain Christmas movies. And one of the movies that we watch every year is called White Christmas. It's a movie that has Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Vera Ellen, and Rosemary Clooney. And yes, that Rosemary Clooney is the aunt of George Clooney, which is probably an actor that most of you are familiar with. But it's a great movie in a lot of ways. But I want to talk about, let me just share briefly about one of the storylines that is in this movie and was really kind of the inspiration for what we're going to be talking about today. So at the beginning of the movie, the scene opens and you see there are, these American servicemen in the Second World War. And they're having kind of a little party. They're getting ready to move up to the front lines the next day. And so, anybody in the military getting ready to go into battle, it's very nerve-wracking the day before. And so they kind of were putting on this little stage show. Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye were up kind of singing and trying to entertain the troops to get their spirits high for going into action. And kind of at the end of that scene, Bing Crosby gets up and says, I'm sorry that General Waverly wasn't able to be with us because we had a special number for him that we wanted to prepare. And the reason was General Waverly, this major general that was in charge of these men, was being relieved of his command. And so he was out actually bringing in the new general, who was a very serious man, and bringing him in, showing him kind of around, sending him off to headquarters, and then going to say goodbye to the troops because he was leaving. They were moving forward. He was going back home. And as a general, as a leader of people, that has to be a very hard thing to do. To watch your people effectively go into battle, but you're not there with them anymore, even though this has been kind of your whole life. And so, at the beginning of the movie, they end up singing this song, and it comes full circle, a little bit later in the story, as they end up after the war in Vermont, and they find out that General Waverly owns this hotel up in the area. Only it's not doing very well. In fact, he's spent all of his money. He's about to go bankrupt, and the characters, that Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye play, they find out about this and they decide that they want to do something to help the general. And so, what they do is they go on TV. They actually put out a call to everybody who served under General. I get a little emotional in this, I think. Who served under General Waverly at that time, to let them know, come and let's put on a party for him, come to his hotel, let's help out the old man. And where that comes from is, there's a song, that song that they sang at the beginning of the movie, they also sang at the end of the movie. And it's called The Old Man. It was written by Irving Berlin. And my whole plan was to sing this to you, and now I'm getting a little emotional. So here we go. But the song kind of goes like this. We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go, long as he wants to go, opposite to the foe. We'll stay with the old man wherever he wants to stay, long as he stays away from the battle fray. Because we love him, especially when he keeps us on the ball. And we'll tell the kiddies we answer duty's call, with the grandest son of a soldier of them all. Now, it seems a little ironic to be talking about loving a general, because generals are usually very tough, very strong people. But this character, Major General Waverly, was loved by his men. He was a servant leader. In fact, in part of the movie, they talk about how we ate first, he ate later. Not a surprise that Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, that he chose that title, because that happens a lot. Really great leaders are servant leaders, and they put their people first. Okay. And I love this because, these men were willing to follow the old man wherever he may go because they loved him. And what I want to talk about today is that there's really three things that a leader has to do in order to move into kind of this executive presence. And it's around being able to manage stakeholders, yourself, and your staff. And I want to talk a little bit today about the staff part of it. Excuse me, because again, I think a lot of times, a lot of the corporate management and leadership that really has been around since the Second World War, especially, has been very militaristic in its style. It's a command and control type of management and leadership. And, that makes a lot of sense, because after the Second World War, especially in the United States, a lot of the people who became in these management and leadership roles had a military background because of the war. They understood command and control. But a lot of times that command and control becomes an authoritarian type of dictatorship where the leader is right and nobody else. They don't listen to anybody else. It's my way or the highway kind of a leadership. And the problem is that has continued to carry over even up until this day in many organizations. And this is one of the reasons why you're starting to hear a lot more about things like emotional intelligence, because you know what? Emotional intelligence is important. It's important as a leader. It's important to end up being a servant leader. And you get much more out of your people if you are a servant leader than if you are a dictator. Okay. Now, this brings me to a discussion that I had with somebody a couple of weeks ago, that again, between the movie and this discussion I had, made me realize, you know what, I got to talk about this on the podcast. And here's what happened. I was talking with a man. He is a direct report to a chief audit executive. And so we were talking about, because he was having some struggles and had some questions that he wanted to have answered. And so as we were talking, he goes through and he starts explaining to me kind of about the company that he's working for and his internal audit group, and particularly the chief audit executive. And he was expressing some frustrations because, as he's going through and talking about it, he says, our chief audit executive is really, he's friends with other executives. He doesn't have an audit background, so he doesn't really understand internal audit. And, he asks us to do things, but he never praises us. He's always criticizing us. And in fact, he talked about this particular incident where he had gone out, done what the executive was asking him to do, brings him back this report. And in the middle of a staff meeting where there's a whole bunch of people around, he just starts criticizing this person and telling him that you don't know what you're talking about. You're such an idiot, and things like that. And this man that I'm talking to, at that point, he just said, you know what? My boss is an asshole. And I had to stop. And he said, the guy is just an asshole. And you know what? He probably is. But here's the reality. Some of you may also be acting like an asshole. Don't be an asshole, okay? You don't have to act that way, because fear will never get you anywhere in the long term. And so today, as I said, I want to talk a little bit about that area of kind of managing or leading staff. And I want to be able to give you a couple of quick tips, and I'm going to talk a lot more about this in the future, but I want to give you some ideas or some things that you can start doing differently, because you know what? You want to be the kind of general that we love him or her, right? It's not the fear and command and control will not get the most out of your people. And I'm here to tell you again that the command and control leadership period in existence is over. It is changing. And if you do not change, you will be left behind. There's a lot of different things that are out there that are showing this. This is one of the major causes of stress and anxiety at work. And organizations are starting to realize this, and they're starting to get rid of people who act that way, who are not emotionally intelligent, and who cannot actually lead kind of from a servant leadership perspective. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do. If you find yourself in that, if your people are afraid of you, then you're doing something wrong. Okay. Now, a couple of things to kind of go through and talk about here. The first one is, and I learned this a long time ago, but this is so true. You want to praise in public, but correct in private. Okay, so this is your first tip. Praise in public and correct in private. So if we go back and we look at this example of this man I was talking to, the mistake that the chief audit executive was making was criticizing or trying to correct in public. You never do that in front of other people. If you need to correct someone, if someone needs to be disciplined, you do it privately. You do not do it in front of other people, because not only does it undermines your leadership because of the way that you're doing it. Everybody else sees it. So it not only has a negative effect on the person who needs to be corrected, but it also affects everybody else in your team and everyone else who heard it. So I know that these come along. I've managed lots of people over my life. And at some time, you do need to correct people, but do it in private. Now, the other thing that a lot of people fail to do is actually praise in public. One of the reasons, a lot of times when people leave an organization, everybody thinks, oh, it's because I got a better job and I'm making more money. Nope, that's not the reason. Most of the time people leave a job is because they do not feel appreciated. And why do they not feel appreciated? Because their leader never appreciated them, never actually publicly or in any way acknowledged what they were doing. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, where leaders will say, well, I'm not going to tell them every time they do something good. I mean, if they're just doing their job, then that's what's expected. And I don't need to actually tell them that they're doing a good job if they're just doing their job that's expected anyway. Well, you can take that you can take that view if you want, but people are going to hate you and you're not going to get the most out of your people. So praise people and praise them in public. There is always something good that you can find to praise about someone else. And make sure that when you do it, that it's at the appropriate time, that it's quickly after you have actually, observed it. Because here's another one of the things that I learned a long time ago in some of my executive training. When you see it, say it. Okay? When you see it, say it. And that works for both the positive and the negative. If you observe someone doing something good, praise them immediately. Let them know about it right then. If you see that something is not going the way it's supposed to be, pull that person aside and tell them immediately. When you see it, say it. Okay, so there's another tip for you. So our first one was praise in public, correct in private. And then we also talked about when you see it, you need to say it. When you see it, say it. Okay, another one. And this is actually something, again, you don't have to be a chief audit executive to do this, but if you have people that are reporting to you, these are all things that will help you, either whether you're a supervisor, a manager, or a chief audit executive. But the next one is, here's kind of a little challenge to you. We all think that we're really, really busy. And sometimes we think that being busy means we're more important, but that's just a load of crap. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. And I want you to take this challenge. I want you to take 15 minutes each week, just 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and actually talk to some of your staff members on a personal level. I want you to actually, and it can be one person for 15 minutes that week, fine. You could do 2 people at kind of 7 minutes or 3 people at 5 minutes. But I want you to actually try to have a conversation with the people that work for you as a human being. I don't want you to just ask them about their work and what's going on. I want you to actually try to get to know them as a human. Find out, are they married? What's their spouse's name? Do they have kids? How was their weekend? And I know a lot of times people push back on this and they say, well, no, we need to separate business from our personal life. Again, that's a bunch of hogwash, okay? Because your personal life makes its way into business. And by getting to know someone a little bit better on a personal and human level will actually help you to be more emotionally intelligent. I'm not talking about, having people overshare with you and all this kind of stuff, but just take 15 minutes each week and actually try to connect with people that work for you on a personal level. This will make a huge, huge difference, not only in how you will be able to lead, but also in the culture of your group. Because guess what's going to happen? Oh, hey, Jason just talked to me and he actually really asked me what was going on and was concerned about me as a person. You think your employees aren't going to share that with each other? Of course they are. And when you go around and you do it to everybody, it's showing that you actually care, right? People don't care what you think or know. They are more concerned about how much you care. And so if you actually take just 15 minutes each week and do that, you will start to see a huge difference in your team. Okay, the last one. Here's another challenge for you. I want you to take the opportunity to thank at least 2 people on your team each week. That's just 2 people. And I'm talking really quick, just to thank you. You can do it verbally, to where, again, when you see it, say it. Look for at least 2 different people in your team each week that have done something good and just go, hey, Jason, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. Just saying thank you is great, and it will go a long ways. Now, if you want to take that to another level, do something that's unexpected in the way that you thank them. You can go down to the store and buy these little thank you cards. A little handwritten thank you card given to someone in today's digital age goes a long ways. In fact, I remember, this was many, many years ago. So we were still digital, but not as digital as we are now. But I had, I was sitting in my office, and the mail person was coming around dropping off all the interoffice mail. And we had those little, yellow envelopes that had the string on it. And usually, there were all the names on it. And so I could see, the mail person dropped off one, and I looked at it, and I could see, because you can always see kind of who has the letter before, because it had everybody's names on it, and then they were crossed off. And I looked at it, and I could see that it came from the executive floor of our building, because the couple of people's names that were on it before I received it were the executives that were on that floor. And so I was sitting there at my desk, and I thought, this is kind of funny. I wonder what this is, right? And so I take it, and I untwine, the string, and I open it up, and there's a little card in there. And it was just a small kind of 3x5 or 4x6 kind of size card. And at the top of it, in blue letters, it said, "From the desk of Larry." Now, our CEO's name was Larry. And so I was a little shocked, and I sat back in my seat a little bit, that, Larry, our CEO, had handwritten a note to me. And so I looked down at that card, this little white card with the blue lettering on the top, and I could see Larry's handwriting, and all it said was, "Jason, great job on the last audit. Keep it up, Larry." That was it. "Jason, great job on the last audit. Keep it up, Larry." Whew. But you know what? I even still get little chills kind of thinking about this now. I carried that card around. I swear it is out in my garage in my storage. I never threw that card away, because, to me, again, him taking that, literally, it probably took him 15 or 20 seconds to write it and throw it in the envelope. But the fact that he took that little bit of time and actually thanked me for what I was doing, right? And I'll tell you, I worked with a lot of chief executive officers, CEOs over the years. Larry was one of the best CEOs I ever worked for. And that was part of the reason. He actually knew you. He actually talked to you. He actually knew me, right? And we would actually talk about things that were non-business related as well. So if you want to be a good leader, if you're really serious about becoming a better leader, then start implementing some of these things, and it will make a huge, huge difference. Okay, so as a summary, these are some of the things that we talked about, right? So remember, praise in public, but correct in private. When you see it, say it. So when you see it, say it. Take the challenge of taking 15 minutes each week and actually get to know your staff on a personal level. So for 15 minutes a week, I want you to talk about something with people that work with you that is non-business related, and actually try to get to know them better at a human level. And the last one, make sure that you're thanking at least 2 people on your team each week. Again, that can be a verbal thank you. It could be a quick little, thank you note like Larry sent to me, but something that shows people that you actually appreciate them and you are thankful for what they are doing. It will make a huge, huge difference, my friends, not only in your ability as a leader, but it will create a culture in your team, so that, as we talked about at the beginning, when you leave and move on, I want your team to stand up and sing, We love him. We love him. Kind of that same sense of pride and love for your leader, like was presented in that movie White Christmas. Now, if you are really serious about becoming a better leader and you are a chief audit executive, at the beginning of this, I talked about the Chief Audit Executive Forum. If you are serious, if you want to take your career to the next level, then submit an application to join the Chief Audit Executive Forum, because we are accepting applications now. And so again, you can go out to the website meffordassociates.com/CAE forum and take a look at the information, see if it looks like it's for you. Because as I said, it's not for everybody. We turn away people each time that we have application period. But if you feel like this is something that you want and need and believe that you're a good fit, submit your application so that we can talk and see where we go from there. So with that, my friends, I'm going to sign off for this week. But thanks for listening through. And again, if you know people in some of these other parts of the world where the Jamming with Jason podcast has not yet been aired live, please reach out to them and say, hey, you got to download this podcast and listen to it, so that we can make the world map light up and have everybody, or somebody from every country actually listening to this each week. And again, if you're a chief audit executive, make sure to check out the CAE forum. But even if you're not a chief audit executive, let your chief audit executive know about this, because again, I'm trying to get the word out to everybody. And so again, just let everybody know. The more that we know, the more that we spread this message, the better we're going to be at being able to actually elevate the internal audit status in your organizations, because that really is my goal. So with that, my friends, I'm signing off for this week. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you on a future episode of Jamming with Jason. And that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Jamming with Jason. Keep on rocking in the audit world. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you later on the next show. If you'd like to earn continuing professional education for listening to today's episode, head on over to C-Risk Academy at ondemand.criskacademy.com. And that's C as in the letter C, riskacademy.com. Not only do you get a CPE certificate, but you also will have access to the video version of today's show. The views and opinions expressed on this show are that of the individuals and not of their respective organizations.